What's up, Bombshells? Welcome to Bombshell 1111 Podcast, Therapy for Women of Color. My name is Kia, and I'm your host. Generally, podcasts request donations, but I want you to show love by simply subscribing to my social media platforms by visiting my website at www.bombshell1111podcast.com. I want to see thousands of subscribers on this platform. Leave your comments and I'll show love by shouting you out on my social media platforms such as Instagram and Facebook. I want to thank you for your continued support as always. And with that being said, let's jump into this new episode. Welcome to Bombshell 1111 Podcast, Therapy for Women of Color. My name is Kia, and I'm your host. Here at Bombshell 1111 Podcast, Therapy for Women of Color, we focus on mental health and personal development. Tonight, you guys, I have two very special guests, Joe Fletcher and Harry Derbitsky of Mental Health Transformation. They both share a passion for mental health. So without further ado, you guys, let's welcome Joe and Harry to the show. Thanks so much for joining us, Harry and Joe. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, great, thank you, yeah.
So I knew that I kind of would butcher Harry's name in the intro. So when I start off the podcast, I always like to allow the guests to do a short intro so that the audience can have a great understanding of who they are and what we're going to be discussing throughout the episode. So Joe, if you want to start off, can you introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, and then Harry, you can piggyback off of Joe.
Okay, hi, yeah, I'm Joe. I'm in England, the UK, and I'm a member of the Mental Health Transformations Group and the Communications Manager. And I went through a lifetime of mental health suffering and physical, and then discovered the 3 principles understanding and had a major transformation in my well-being, and then discovered the wonderful mental health transformations and was invited into the group.
And Harry?
I'm president of Advanced Coaches Training. I'm the lead coach for the group, which is interesting because I've never taken a psychology course and I've never been diagnosed with a mental illness. So we have 6 people in the group, 4 from England, 1 from Croatia, and then myself as the lead coach. And each person has had a major transformation, a transformation from mental illness or mental health dysfunctionality, all the acute depressions, the acute pain, the acute anxieties, the extreme addictions, and all have walked back into a life of mental health, happiness, and contentment. So the 3 principles that Joe related to are the 3 principles of universal mind, universal thought, and universal consciousness, bulletproof you against the mental illnesses that people are experiencing and are taught erroneously by today's psychiatric and psychological community. They're innocent. They're doing the best they can, but they're lost. And the reason so many people are suffering from anxiety, depression, is they're looking at the outside circumstances rather than the internal reason why that person has become unbalanced. And then that person has bought into that label, often personified by the professional innocently, and of course with the drugs that go with the scenario. So the emphasis with the group, Kia, is not me. It's each member has a story of major transformation. And as Joe will testify, each sounds unique. So we don't have a cookie cutter approach to it. Basically, as each person finds the truth inside themselves, they simply start to doctor themselves. And I act as a facilitator, a catalyst, and a person who helps the people move into higher levels of consciousness. And I'm a happy guy, so it's pretty easy.
I would have totally agree with just 10 minutes of meeting you. I would agree. So with mental health transformations, Joe and Harry, is this somewhat, or is this exactly a support group for individuals with mental health conditions? Or what exactly does mental health transformations do for an individual with mental health?
First of all, it's a closed group. So we're not looking for a lot of people. We're looking for certain people who can tell their story and impact the world with hope. See, there's a lack of feeling of hope when people, and yet mental health is a field that is very open. They want to know what the answer is. So the purpose of the group is we support each other. Each person, it's a group teaching facility based on the 3 principles, but we go out and we do like this show and talk to people, and what we have is a message for the people. If you change your thought, you'll change your destiny. Nothing outside of you controls who you are. Nothing outside of you. It appears to be that way, but that is just your ego telling you and convincing you of the label. You know deep down, everybody knows deep down, Kia, the truth. They can feel it. And you mentioned you have a bit of a past in this. There's something that woke up in you, Kia. Mm-hmm. That's all we're talking about.
Let me ask both you, Joe, and Harry, this question. Why do you feel, as a mental health advocate, why is there such a stigma associated with mental health conditions?
Joe will answer that one.
Yeah, what I would say is, rather than stigma, it's a misunderstanding of what so-called mental illness is, and people think it's a disease of the brain, when actually, in fact, it's a guide, and it's calling you back to who you really are. And so when you get lost in your own personal thinking, your own personal mind, and you kind of restricting yourself, and you kind of in that stress in your head, it's actually letting you know and calling you back to that space, that quietness of your true self, and that we all have that health within us and that positive feelings within us. And so we kind of get there, and it's a alarm system really that lets you know and brings you back. And so really, rather than being an illness or something that's bad, it's actually a gift in its own way, in that it lets you know and wakes you up again. And people just don't realise that. And when you actually do realise that, and then you can see that actually I'm feeling like that because of my own personal thinking and my own personal stuckness, that I can see again, actually that is why it is, and then naturally I will come back to who I really am.
So the stigma, Kia, is based on when a person is lost and they're looking for answers in the wrong place, then the stigma appears to be enormous. People look at them, but the reality of it is that people are looking at them because they are uncomfortable with themselves. And when they get comfortable with themselves, the people, they will not care what other people say about them. Like we all face things. Your dad said something, your teacher said something, your boyfriend said something, the psychologist said something, other people. I don't know about you, Kia, but it seems like there's a little bit of prejudice in the States. Your job is to provide a feeling that you're okay and comfortable with yourself. But when you're not comfortable with yourself, that stigma hurts. And I'm not saying there isn't prejudice. We know there's prejudice, but there's prejudice everywhere. Everywhere. And it's not just in this area, but the sensitivity of feeling like a loser, that's the stigma. when you see, Joe doesn't see himself like a loser. None of our members see them. They see themselves like a winner.
Yeah.
In a
and you made a good point, Harry, and that kind of leads into another good question. What role would you think, just within your expertise, can culture play in this stigma?
Go ahead, Joe. You take a stab at it first, and then I'll
So can you repeat that question? I didn't quite catch that. Coach, did you say?
What role can culture play in this stigma with mental health?
The coach?
Yeah, culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they guide people to see who they really are, and that we all have that health within us, and the beauty within us, and the wisdom to know ourselves how to come back to who the wellness within that is we've built within everyone. And so a coach who speaks wisdom will guide the person back to their own natural health and their own knowledge within themselves.
So that wisdom, Kia, he's talking about is before culture. No matter what the culture, no matter what, Kia, whether you're black or white, whether you're a woman or a man, you're a human being before all of that.
Right.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Did you say culture? I thought you said coach.
Yeah, culture. Okay.
Oh, what role does culture play?
Yeah, the culture.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, like, yes, each kind of culture has its own story. That's kind of a joint gathered story, and so there will be that, which is kind of in the physical. But before that, we all have the, when they say the oneness or the kind of really same, and that is before our physical self. That is the kind of the feeling inside of us. We all have the same feeling inside of us, and that positive feeling is within every person on this planet, and that is innate to everybody.
It's a little bit, Kia, like this woman who I was very close with, not sexually, but as a friend and so on. And she was very, I guess you could say, overweight, obese, and not pretty. In fact, quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But she was a beautiful soul. Oh, and when she smiled, it just beamed out at her. And she said to me, I know I'm ugly on the outside, but inside, I'm beautiful. I'm really beautiful. And that's the person I am. And that's before culture. And she was an indigenous person, which means Native American. But before all of that, you have a beautiful feeling about yourself. I know culture influences people, but the reality of it is before your mom and dad, you were still a spiritual person.
Mm-hmm.
Before you were black, you were still a spiritual person.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it. Everybody knows it. That feeling is real. That's what people are running away from in mental health, Kia. They want to blame something outside of themselves for the reason. And that's not the direction of healing.
Yeah, totally agree. And so, Joe and Harry, if someone wants to become a part in some way, donate, become a part, advocate, become a coach with mental health transformations, how can they make that possible?
They can't, because I'm the one who picks the people who come into the group.
Oh my gracious! So is it so you said it's a closed group?
It is. It's a group that is built on the foundation of people who understand truth, who have experienced an understanding of how thought creates feelings, an understanding of the three principles, but it's based on their own, on a transformation experience. And I can, there was a movie, Kia, an old movie. This guy was a drunk, but he was the best trainer of music, people's voices, and he could hear a perfect note. And he went into the pub, and because he wanted another drink, and it was a punk rock band, and the woman was gross in her singing. And then she hit that perfect note, and he just picked up like a thing, like unbelievable. And he went to her and he wanted to train her because she could hit that perfect note. That's what I see in the people who come into the group. They hit that note. And so the group is there as a story to tell stories, to tell about the transformation experience that every human being can have.
And if someone wants to be able to reach you guys, Harry, how would they be able to contact you?
Well, you contact Joe. Joe will give you his email, and Joe's the communication manager, and he'll set it up. We're more than happy to share and to help, but we're not. This is a different concept. We're not looking for a lot of quantity. We're looking for. We want to tell our story because it's the story that needs to be heard. And what has to be heard is not more bullshit, but transformation stories, things that work. What do you want, Kia? Something that doesn't work or something that works?
Something that works, Harry.
Well, that's what the group is about.
And so, Joe, how would someone that wants to be interested in the group get a hold of you guys? What's your social media platform?
Well, firstly, you can go onto our website, which is acttraining.biz, and then you can click on Mental Health Transformations. And we're also on LinkedIn as well, if you search for Mental Health Transformations. And we have the YouTube channel, which I sent you.
Yeah, and all they have to do is go to acttraining.biz and click on Mental Health Transformation. All the information, there's a whole page of videos and testimonies and write-ups, etc., etc.
Thank you so much, Joe and Harry, for that. And thank you so much, you guys, for coming on and being a part of the podcast and sharing your knowledge and tools. And hope to hear from you again, and hopefully you guys can come back and share another episode and share your knowledge and tools again as we continue to grow on the podcast. So again, thank you, Joe and Harry.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys, this brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks to Joe and Harry for joining. We hope that you were able to hear something beneficial to you. If you enjoyed our show, please rate, review us on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to come back at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time next Sunday. And with that being said, always remember, you are a bomb within your own shell. Peace, love, and light, you guys. Good night.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure you subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate, review, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with some valuable information that can help you on your personal journey. Also, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Bombshell1111 or at Bombshell1111 TV. You can also check out our mental health page, Your Health is Your Wealth, on Facebook, which is a page created to inform and support individuals with mental health and other health conditions. And with that being said, always remember, you guys, you are a bomb within your own shell. And until next time, peace, love, and light.
You know, man.